So the rain has finally stopped today for a moment, and I'm thinking to sow my potatoes finally, my early potatoes. It's mid-April, but what can you do? I'm gonna sow them in this bed right here and also in containers, and I'm gonna take you with me for the whole process. And if I still have time, I might even throw some seeds in there in the mini polytunnel, some flowers, maybe some turnips, I don't know. But first, let's grab our tools from our shed in here. We have some containers. You might have seen them last time. My tools over there, my straw mulch, my compost, and my seed potatoes. It's going to be a tough one because usually my husband does the heavy lifting and helps me lift all these bags, since I kind of have a bad back sometimes. And I think I'll be doing that solo today, so you're probably going to see me struggle a little bit. Oh, and if you're new here, hi, my name is Adriana. I garden in beautiful Transylvania, Romania, Zone 6B, in a semi-suburban area. I decided to document the process of working on my garden for the entire year, just to show you guys that you can do too, that it's not that much work, it's just a couple of hours per week, hopefully, fingers crossed. Hope it encourages you to start your own garden too. Actually, I tried lifting one of these bags into the wheelbarrow, and I realized there is no way in hell I can do it alone. They're so heavy, so I'm gonna have to wait for my husband to get here and save me. I hate this. Okay, so my husband's on his way, and until he gets here, I want to talk to you about the types of potatoes that I'm planting this year. It's always early potatoes for me, although in this area, most people sow main crop potatoes because they want them for storage. I want them for storage as well, and in fact, contrary to popular belief, they don't rot. They actually store really well in our root cellar. But I want them to be ready by mid-July, the very latest, because what I tend to do in this garden, because it's such a small space, I want to get a second crop out of the same bed. So by mid-July, I will probably be planting leeks in here and kohlrabi and turnips, stuff like that, so I can get as much food from this bed as possible. So this year I didn't go crazy with varieties. I usually try about 4 or 5 varieties. I just chose 2 main boring early potatoes. They're pretty popular in Europe. This one is called Prima Belle. It's a yellow potato, salad potato, and this one is called Bella Rosa. And it's great for soups and boiling, and it has red skin and it's kind of yellowish inside, but it's really delicious, and supposedly they're productive. Not for me though, because last year was pretty rough for potatoes. I heard it was pretty bad all around with most gardeners I talked to, and also my container potatoes didn't do very well, so I'm hoping this year will be different, but you never know. Another thing is that I usually plant my potatoes using the no-dig method, so I just dig as minimally as possible. I just use a hand trowel to dig a small hole and drop a potato in. But it's been raining, we have places to go, we have a lot of traveling coming up, and today and tomorrow are actually the only days that we can actually do anything in the garden. So we're going to plant potatoes in wet soil, and for the life of me I cannot dig individual holes in wet soil, so I'm going to go against my principles here and just dig a couple of trenches. In this bed I also have some peas growing in the trellis behind me, and I like to grow at least 2 different kinds of crops in every single bed. And I planted peas back there because I know they will mature and grow up the trellis quickly before the potatoes get a chance to get too big and smother them. Okay, so Igor, my husband, was luckily able to come home early, and he helped dig 2 trenches in this raised bed for me. I know that digging isn't ideal, but sometimes we do have to dig our raised beds or broad fork them just to get our harvest out. So with potatoes and carrots, we always end up digging our beds a little bit, and it's not that much of a problem. But you certainly don't have to do that, and I don't recommend you do that. If your soil is nice and loose, you can just use a hand trowel or even place your potatoes simply on the soil and cover them with a thick layer of straw or leaf mulch or anything you have on hand, compost even. Okay, so now that we butchered our no-dig beds by digging the hell out of them, we're going to sow the potatoes. Ideally, you want about 2 feet in between rows and about, how much is this? I don't know, 15 centimeters. I don't know how much that is in inches in between potatoes. So we're just gonna put red potatoes on one side, white potatoes on the other side, and cover them and be done with it. Let's go. Oh, I'm just gonna film because I have an assistant today and I don't have to do much. Unfortunately, my microphone batteries died on me that day, so this is editing Adriana here. Hi. What I wanted to mention is that last year we did 3 rows of potatoes, and I've seen a lot of gardeners do 3 or even more rows in a space like mine, but I ended up with really small potatoes. It might have been the weather, it might have been a million things, but this year I decided to adhere to the recommendations and have 2 feet between my rows, so just 2 rows of potatoes for us, and we'll see if that makes any difference. Moving on to growing potatoes in containers, this is really new to us actually. I only did it last year with mixed results. You can see me adding some blood meal in there for added nutrition. The soil is actually garden soil mixed with compost 1-to-1. I place my seed potatoes when the container is filled halfway, just 2 on either side, and then fill the containers and repeat the process with 2 more seed potatoes on the opposite sides. And that's how I've seen other gardener YouTubers do it. That's because supposedly potatoes grow on just one level, so they don't go very deep, and that's why we can take advantage of the depth and sow 2 levels of potatoes in there. I think the main mistake I made with potatoes in containers last year was not watering them nearly enough. I plan to use mulch this year, but mulch just by itself won't do much unless I stay on top of watering. But since I do have strawberries in containers this year as well, it will motivate me to keep on top of watering all the pots and everything that I have. Raised beds are much more forgiving because they do hold on to moisture, so it's easier to just let rain and Mother Nature do its thing. The potatoes are all in. It didn't take very long, about an hour, to get them in this bed right here and in the 7 containers behind me. Thanks to my husband, because otherwise I would have been here all day sowing potatoes and carrying compost and dirt around. I'm going to mulch these containers and the bed with the straw that you saw inside the barn, but I'm not going to do it just yet, just because it's so wet and lots of slugs around and not everything is sprouted, not all the peas have sprouted, and I don't want to smother them. So I plan to use straw on all my garden. I'm kind of nervous about that because I know it can actually have some seeds, some wheat seeds and whatnot. So we'll see how that goes, but I don't want to do that much weeding this year. I still have a little bit of time left, and my microphone died on me, but I did have some problems with the peas that I've sown inside this wheelbarrow container. They didn't sprout, so I took a peek and they were actually rotten. They were turning to mush. So I quickly grabbed some strawberries from at the back of the garden there, and I moved them in this bed because you can never have enough strawberries. And the last thing I want to do today is actually sow some flowers, some cosmos zinnias and nasturtiums, and I'm going to put them inside the mini tunnel just to get some seedlings for when it's warm enough to transplant them outside. And that's it for today. I'm not gonna film the whole thing because the video's already getting long, but thanks so much for watching my husband plant my potatoes, and thanks so much for sticking so far. Hopefully by the time we get back from our trip, we're gonna see some results, and I can't wait to show you guys.